All right. So remember the test is on Tuesday morning. What time did I say it is? Tuesday morning? 8:45. Okay. So it ordinarily would start at 7:30, but we've moved it back to 8:45. I want you to do it in 10. There's no surprise about which question it's going to be because there is just this one question. So I'll take your questions and we can go through it. I will be around some tomorrow. I know one person's coming in at 10 to take a test, and I think somebody else might be going to meet me. But as usual, it's better to arrange with me in advance if you're planning to come in, because I don't know when I'll be there. But I'm certainly happy to spend time in the office and you're preparing for the test. Okay. Is somebody recording?
I am, yeah.
Okay. So will you send me the tape afterwards?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I am too, but...
Okay, you both send me.
Doesn't matter.
Good job. There's links to YouTube. That's more fail-safe than one does. And I'm grateful to you. So, questions?
Can you just, so like we have the 3 questions, like what is morality, how is moral knowledge possible, and why be moral? But
Yep.
Can you just go over what each like sublet is? Like I know for the second one, it's like the sublets are like in the Bible, ask a religious leader, and prayer.
So we're talking about answers to these questions?
Just the like sub-units to the part.
Well, there's in one way that would be asking me to just repeat, to just tell you everything on the test from the start to finish, and that I'll do only in answer to questions. So you have to tell me which specific part you want me to answer.
Can you go over the first one then? What is morality? Like where did it come from?
So I'm going to start by giving you, again, I'm going to give you a broad answer, but you can ask me for more specifics as we go along or anytime you want. So the first question is, what is morality? And related questions are, the problem here is something like this. It's, if you believe in moral facts, the question is, what could a moral fact be? You know, what makes them the facts? Where do they come from? And what seems like a nice simple answer is, well, we're familiar with beings wanting stuff, and we're familiar with commands, and morality is just what God wants us to do, and therefore commands us to do. So sometimes it's called the divine command theory, but I prefer theological voluntarism. Which I abbreviate as TV, and the reason I prefer that is because it locates morality in the will of God. So if you said, for example, that morality is identical to God's will, although that would be true as far as the divine command theory is concerned, it's not completely informative. Here's an analogy that I don't think I gave in class, but might make it clearer. I've made to some of you in the office. Suppose that the only thing I cared about was that my kids obey the law of Vermont. Okay? And so I tell them, I want you to obey the laws of Vermont. Then my wishes for them are identical to the laws of Vermont. But so far I haven't told you anything about where the laws of Vermont come from. And in fact, they don't come from my wishes. So we need to be more specific here. The divine command theory, or theological voluntarism, is the view that morality is the command of God in the sense that God's commanding it is what creates it. So morality is identical to the will of God in the sense that if something is immoral, it's because God wants us not to do it. And likewise, if it's morally required, it's because it's what God wants us to do. Morality is what it is because of God's will. Murder is wrong because God wants us not to murder. And this corresponds to the answer that's given. You know, Plato makes the same distinction. He asks about piety, and what he asks is whether it's virtuous because the gods love it, or do they love it because it's virtuous? And the suggestion here is that it's virtuous because they love it. Charity is good because God approves of it. So God's will is what makes morality. God is the author of morality. And I objected to this view on, I guess, 3 different grounds. One of them had to do with, well, 2 of them were reductio ad absurdums. And one of them, I said, if voluntarism is true, then it could be our moral duty to torture our children for fun. But it can't be our duty to torture our children for fun, so morality is not God's will, voluntarism is wrong. In the second one, John Arthur argues that if voluntarism is true, then God's commands are arbitrary. And God's commands aren't arbitrary, so morality is not the will of God. And the third one was mine again, and it was just me saying, and the first one isn't really mine, it's been around for years. The third one is really mine, and it's just saying, if that's what morality is, then morality is morality doesn't have the cachet or the special status that you might have thought it had. Cachet just means like a special status or the, special appeal. You might have thought morality was a big deal, but it turns out on this view, morality is just what some being wants us to do. And I objected on that ground, that morality couldn't be like that. So I guess that's a modus tollens too. Yeah?
So these are all responses just to P1?
They're all these are all responses to, no, they're all responses to voluntarism. So you've got this question, what is morality? Constellation of Youth says, morality is the will of God. And I responded with 3 different arguments. One of them was, and in a way they're all reductios. In a way they're all sort of modus tollens, where that's, if your view, take your view, PB is true, then something absurd is true, but the absurdity can't be true, so TV can't be true.
They all follow the same law?
They, in a way, they're all versions of that. Right? They're all reductio arguments. They all say that there's an implication of voluntarism that's just too bizarre to accept.
The reason I asked that is because I just know in class in my notes and then also in your office that you said like these are responses to P1, these are responses to P2. Do we need to specifically say, or can we just say these are?
It's better if you do. It's better if you can. But we haven't gotten to those so far in here because all I've done is say what the 3 different reductios are, and those are the 3 different responses to voluntarism. The next level would be to say, well, let's look at the first one. And I've got responses to it. Some of those responses are responses to P1, and I've got answers to those, and some of them are responses to P2, and I've got answers to those. So you see why we're not at that level yet? It's like, the big questions. And there's a lot to say under each of these, and the answer is theological voluntarism, and then there were arguments against it, right? Reductio number 1, number 2, and number 3, and then smells like it looks. Smells like cherry, like fake cherry flavor. Under 1, look at this. There were objections. Some of these objections were objections to P1. Some of them were objections to P2. And to each of these I had a response. So objection, 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 reply, reply. See the structure? I know that's a bit of a mess, but
I see.
so it's like, here's what is morality. The answer is voluntarism. There are 3 arguments against it. Look at the first one. There are a bunch of objections. There are some objections to it that are objections to premise 1. To those objections, let's just make it simpler.
Okay, with the 3, yeah.
Let's just
Can
make
I
it simpler.
just state the 3 against TV then?
Yeah, no, let's just make it simpler. I promise you I think I can do that. But if voluntarism is true, then C, not C, therefore not voluntarism. Okay, that's the first objection. Now, under that, we've got objections to the objection. So I'm going to call these objections to premise 1 of 1. And then these down here would be objections to premise 2. That's premise 2 of 1. Here's 1. Here's premise 1 of 1. Here's premise 2 of 1. Okay? Then we have the first objection, second objection, and the third objection. Okay? Which we haven't talked about yet. To each of these, I'm going to have some replies. Reply to the third objection to premise 1. Reply to the, well, maybe a second reply to the third objection, and then we'll third. Okay? Is that clear? Could be. What is morality? Voluntarism is the answer. Here's our little notice colon. The voluntarism is true, then C, whatever C was. There were 2 premises to it. I said we can list the objections as objections to premise 1. Right here, TV arrow C, and you can do objections to not C. So let's just say what objections to premise 1 are. Objections to, in other words, objections to if TV, then C. And this is objection to not C. Okay? And then there are going to be replies to each of those. Okay, here are the objections. The first one, the second one, and the third one. And then to each of those are going to be some replies as well. So each time we just go over another level. So here are the replies. So they're going to come over at this level.
I understand, now I understand the structure. I just get confused, like when you're talking, which part of which structure.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's why it's best to ask me about specific parts of it. So, for example,
Do you want us to use like what you used in class, like the 3 different arguments that you have for theoretical voluntarism? You have CA.
theological voluntarism?
Yeah, voluntarism. Sorry. And then you had CA and GLA. Do you want us to use those specific
CA, sorry?
CA and GLA I have written down in class.
I have no idea what those stand
God's
for.
love is arbitrary. And
Oh, right.
command of arbitrary is A. And C is
The abbreviations don't help your roommate. I would just spell them out and give them whatever abbreviation you want. Even I don't remember what abbreviations I gave there. So this is just structural right now. Nobody can read what this says. I'm just showing you the structure. If TV, then C, and not C, therefore not TV. Somebody's got to tell you what C stands for before you can understand. Sorry, I can't understand.
I just wanted to know whether you wanted to use those specifically.
The variables, and the answer is couldn't care less about that. It could be theological voluntarism. You could call theological voluntarism X if you wanted to. And say if X is true, then alpha. And then just tell me what alpha stands for.
Okay, so it was like